Well, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon officially, everyone. I believe you already received the message saying that we are recording this for later. Whoever it's joining or it's not joining, but will be watching this later, they will be having an opportunity to hear what these amazing people have to say today. My name is Luna. Today is our second fire session from Echo's Innovation Lab, and we'll be discussing about design leadership, and I am super excited about this. Tavi, if you could go ahead. And again, there you go. I'm Luna. I'm the advisor for the program. I've been working for Echoes for quite a little bit now. Um, I'm a strategic designer, so that's the reason why I'm in this position. So if you have any questions about the program, the content, or if you just want to discuss and brainstorm about design leadership, I will be later posting my calendar here so we can definitely have more of these conversations as the session finishes. And you can go ahead, Chhavi. I'll be soon passing the ball to you. We are independent lab, Ecosis. We are based in Brazil and Australia and Portugal. But since the pandemic, well, I'm in the US and we have people all over the world. And it's super, super exciting to see how amazing it is that boundaries are definitely down at this point. And you can go ahead, Xavi, please. Ecos has three business units. We have the Ecos Innovation Project, the Design Thinking School, which is where design leadership program is coming from, and we have Ecos Ventures. And you can go ahead again, Xavi, please. We've been helping business and people from all over the world to develop new mindsets through design thinking, service design, business design, and now our advanced program for leadership, which is design leadership program. We'll be talking more about this later. You can go ahead. We've formed over 400 professionals in design thinking and service design courses throughout the past 10 years. This year is our anniversary. Ecos is completing 10 years this year, so it's super exciting to see that we are launching this first global program exactly when we are turning 10 years old. So it's quite a maturity for us as well. You can go ahead, Xavi. And we are part of GDTA. And the most amazing thing is that we are the only innovation lab among all these universities. So we've been doing extensive work in researching about design thinking, innovation, and creativity for the past 10 years. So we are proud to be part of GDTA group. And our design leadership program is starting in less than 3 weeks from now. So this week we have still a couple of fire sessions. And again, I'll be posting the links for you guys to participate in other fire sessions like in Brazil and North America. So you can have other perspectives of how our leaders are dealing and talking about design leadership. The course starts on July 12th and it's a 12-week course, 3 months, where we are going to have regional leaders and global leaders speaking on design leadership, some soft skills, and what it takes for you to become the design leader and evangelize the value of design within your organizations. You can go ahead, Xavi. This is the roadmap for the course, and whoever is interested to see more of the syllabus or the roadmap, I can definitely send it over to you. Just shoot me a text while we are here in this fire session. You can go ahead, Xavi. These are some of our amazing global leaders. I'm pretty sure you've seen them before. So we have Indy Jung, Stephen Gates, and Talis Wick, Bill Balagtas, Peter Merholtz. We are just super excited to see these people talking, and some of them already spoke to us in previous fire sessions, and we have the recordings. So I would definitely incentivize you guys to go on YouTube and search for those fire sessions. Definitely good food for thought. Go ahead, Xavi, please. Those are some of our amazing regional leaders, and Chhavi is one of them. She's also our ambassador for the European cohort. You can go ahead, Chhavi. These are some other names. We have cohorts in North America, Brazil, Europe, Asia. So I would love to talk to you guys further about this. But I believe this is it for now. And let's just talk. Let's go to the fun part of this. And Chhavi, it's all for you now. You're the host, you're the start of this fire session today. So please entertain us.
Thank you, Luna. That was fabulous. I'm so excited for the program to start. Can't wait. So a quick intro about me. I'm Chhavi. I'm the head of design at Future Food Institute. And right now I'm calling you from Pollica, our new living lab in the south of Italy. And I want to start by a personal anecdote quickly, that why I'm here and why I try to bring all of these amazing people together. Not tried, actually managed. I'm feeling pretty proud of that. At the beginning of this year, I was going through a bit of a personal transformation where I was really trying to understand, okay, is it design? Is it innovation? Is it change management? What is it that my role is as someone who has a background in product design, interaction design, food systems design, and what role do I play? And I kind of embraced the role of head of design, which I was running away from for the longest time, because I thought that as soon as you bring the word design into the picture, a lot of contexts kind of shy away from it, and they believe that, okay, you have a very specific, maybe a cosmetic role instead of something more strategic and holistic. So I wanted to create this conversation, and that's when Juliana reached out, and she said, we want to create this community around design leadership. And I thought that it's a great opportunity to really bring this conversation up front. So which is why I looked around me in my community. People I've been hearing about doing great work using design as a strategic tool for leadership, for change. And that's my honor to be inviting our three very special guests. Vincenzo Di Maria, he's the co-founder and partner at Commonground, a service and experience design studio based in Bologna. His past experiences include working at Design Against Crime Center and Poly Design Consortium at Politecnico di Milano. He's also an author. He recently released a book called Service Design for Small Companies, which I really recommend you to check out if you haven't. Next, we have Saurabh Gupta from India. He has been recognized as one of India's top 50 most innovative leaders. He has been the VP and Managing Director of Human Factors International. And today he is a co-founder of ZEUX Innovation. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about what does design leadership look like in the UX background from you. And finally, last but not the least, we have Laura Lorenzo, the founder of A Piece of Lemon Cake, a community awareness project around urban gardening. And she's the co-founder of Service Design Network Portugal, and a really passionate activistic designer. And I really want to hear from her. What does it mean to curate projects as a design leader in the sustainability field? Really looking forward to this conversation. Let's start from our first question. What is, wait, actually, I want to give a moment for you guys to introduce yourself in case I missed something. So let's start from Vincenzo.
Hi, Chhavi and everybody. Hello. You already say most of the things I should say. I'm also a teacher at the moment. I'm teaching at the university in Bologna, and I've been running service design training as well since 2011. So I shared this with ECOS, more than 10 years sort of training. The first one was a service design course at Central St. Martin at University of the Arts in London. And in these 10 years training with professionals, but also doing a lot of educational work in design, I'm already anticipating some of the answer on design leadership. That's what my design leadership has gone through. So about sharing and empowering other people who may become designers or may use design in their professional life to make a change.
Thank you. Saurabh, you want to go next?
Yeah, Chhavi, you covered most of it. The only things I would like to add is in the past year, we've also started a sustainability venture, which is an online zero plastic store, something that I and my co-founder at ZEUX have been really passionate about. And so that's our little passion project on the side, and something that occupies my time apart from when I'm not busy with ZEUX.
I had no idea. So it's even, we have even more in common here.
Awesome. Yeah.
And Laura?
Well, I'd like to share a personal note, just like you did. It is interesting to see that you were moving behind from design because of this cosmetic perspective of people might have of. I come from a background of engineering, and then I applied a lot of human-centric approaches, also because of my studies of anthropology that I at Stanford, but then the MBA in service innovation and design. But always I was struggling with the fact that I'm not a designer because I didn't study design, you know, and it took me a while to, first of all, realize that all the components of my knowledge from the different studies that I did made me a designer, because design is a mindset. Then you have the tooling and lots of things that you can use and play with, but design is a mindset. It's not a job role or job position. And I think it is important. Maybe that brings the floor to the first question. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I'm setting my screen. It does take us into the first question. What is design leadership and why does it matter? Why does it matter for you and for your background?
Should we
Vincenzo,
keep the
do you
same
wanna start?
round? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. As you say, I ran a design studio called Commonground. Commonground is a company that tried to bring design into fields where design has not been yet. In the past, we did a lot of work in the social innovation sphere and environment. Over the past 10 years, apart from doing a lot of training and doing a lot of design coaching as well, which is enabling people who are not designers to use design mindsets, not just tools and methods, as Laura just said, to empower them in the work they do. That they may not be just producing products, services, and experiences, but maybe a community project, maybe innovating and changing businesses, or get a new company to life, so a startup or a new co. It's been interesting for us that working with big corporates on one side and then working with the small companies on the other side, we saw design working in different ways. Of course, the big corporates are more used to innovation, R&D, design process, and tend to commission you. You have a mandate, just do this, do that. Very rarely I found great companies where I could look in the eyes the people take this, make the great decisions, and work with the top senior leadership team who enable a big change for the company. So you always been a piece of a massive machines, and you never know what your design work, how's that gonna impact, and what's gonna happen after you finish your part of the puzzle. With smaller company, I've seen the role of the design leadership increasing a lot, because you can really make a difference. You can really touch not just the processes and the individual service or experience, but you can really talk about the culture. You can talk about the operational style of the company. You can really enable people to make different decisions. They will be more strategic, more business oriented. And let's start with a design conversation. It's interesting how I start talking about your service, your users. I would say your target or your, but when we talk about design, we tend to blend language with the business people. At first, to engage them in conversation they may understand, but then the conversation goes further. So I see the role of design leadership in what I do in small and medium enterprises, which are not just startups. These are also family companies. In Italy, more or less is 60% of the companies that we have around are small and medium companies. They have recurrent problems like passing over from the founder who was your grandfather, your father as entrepreneur, was passing the ball to younger generations, and the market has changed, the products has changed, everything has changed, and so these new people need to take the company to a new level. So I've seen design leadership being very useful there. And on top of that, how do we prepare the designers of the future? That goes back to a conversation I was saying with universities and designing, not just training designers, but as Laura was saying as well, helping other people may contribute to the design conversation to think more in a designerly way and have a role in the design of the future of a company or of a city or of a hospital, according whether you work in a private, social, or public sector. So start small has been, that was the title of the book that you mentioned before. And unfortunately is in Italian. It came out in Italian. See if it works in Italian. We may be translating in English later on in the future. Start small will be also my suggestion for making design leadership work in a smaller environment and context.
I love that. So you're speaking about the role of design leadership in enabling other people. So this goes beyond designers per se. This goes in empowerment. This goes in using design as a mindset, the designerly way. I love that term. I want to keep that for our recap later. Thank you. And what about Saurabh? What do you think? Your experience has been more on larger companies.
Yeah, Chhavi. So I'm going to speak from the Indian context, of course, right? When I heard that question, it made me happy because when I see the words design and leadership spoken in the same sentence, it's great. And it's rare. It's a more recent occurrence because I've been doing this a long time. In fact, I'll be happier when we don't have to use the word design leadership to say design can also be leadership. I think the fact that we have to use those two words together shows that we are a little insecure about that. And we're still trying to make people feel like we can also be leaders. But it's a journey. In fact, I think a case in point as a innovation company is who we tend to usually work with in large organizations. So as when I go in, who is my touch point? So I typically work with marketing departments or digital teams, but it's rare for me to find a chief design officer in a company. It's a role that has emerged, but it's still rare to go to a company and find that they have a chief design officer. Why is it rare? Well, because a lot of companies still struggle to understand what is the strategic advantage of design. How is that different from just doing marketing or digital or whatever? So what is this separate thing and why should we have it? But I would like to see more and more CDOs, because I think if that happens, then clearly you can know that design leadership is growing. And so how do you ensure that is, as designers, we have to, like you said, Chhavi, you have to move away from making pretty pictures to be just cosmetic. You have to be outcome oriented, right? You can't be talking about leadership and not deliver business outcomes. I mean, design is notoriously hard to measure, right? I mean, you used to measure design by you make a presentation, it looks nice, everybody claps, and that's it. Like what happened to the bottom line, right? Did it move anything? Did it make a difference? And so if we want design leadership to be spoken in these two words to be spoken in the same sentence again and again, we must be outcome oriented. And the other reason why it matters so much, which relates to the sustainability thing I was talking about, is in today's world, where sustainability is such a big issue because of what the planet is going through. I think the design leadership should be the loudest voice in the room when it comes to thinking of solutions that are sustainable. And we should really fight for that and ensure that we encourage a more circular product life cycle. And I think since design got us in this mess in the first place, it's up to us to get us out of it. I think it's really amazing that we're talking about design and leadership, and I'm excited about where it's going to go.
There are very few people few designers who accept that we might have just gotten ourselves into this mess by focusing on human-centered design too much, without focusing on planet and planet-centric design is then another conversation here. But so you're saying that we need to be focused on business outcomes and look at business leadership and design leadership not as separate things, but almost kind of synonymous one to another, just
Yeah,
bringing
because
the
I mean,
strategic
you
leverage
don't
of
hear
design.
other industries saying food leadership or e-commerce leadership or technology. They just call it leadership, right? So I think when design leadership becomes just leadership, that's when we'll know we've arrived.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting point to then start overlapping ourselves into the different shoes. You're not just playing the role of a designer anymore. You're just playing the role of a business leader.
Yeah.
Laura, what do you think?
Well, I couldn't agree more with what my colleague said. There are few chief design officers that you can find even today. And to me, design leadership, what it is and what it does is bring clarity to business, what design can do as a mindset. So it's very related with the outcomes. Design leadership talks business purely, and also talks clearly and louder to the design community to look at their function, to look at their role as a person, as a designer, outside from the role they are playing in the company. Because many designers think that they only can do what they're doing, the UX, the interaction, or very operational perspective, not this business mindset. This is strategic mindset. And partly of that is because when we studied design, there was this business mindset as part of the syllabus of what our product and service designers and UX designers or interaction designers, they didn't were told about how business works. So, and therefore they are very much in positions that they are very operational. So they are not exposed to business. They're not exposed to the business language. So how can they get into that? How can we get us into the board of directors if we don't hold business? So and that's why it's so much frustration on us designers and on business, because business understands that they're not struggling, they're not making their revenues, they need to innovate, they have heard about design thinking and how important is human-centric and listen to the customer, but they didn't understand what design can bring, because their understanding of design is pixel perfect experience. And then designers, they are frustrated because they know that they could do more, they could leverage their knowledge from a broader perspective, but then they struggle to bring this conversation in a meaningful way to business. So I think that is what design leadership brings clarity and bridges these two worlds in a meaningful way and helps designers to grow and helps the business to understand.
This is very interesting, and it is similar to what Julian said in our last webinar as well, because the designer's role today, design leadership, is to a large extent also facilitating these conversations of different stakeholders within, bringing clarity, sense making, so that businesses can grow towards sustainability or towards impact or towards really truly changing and innovating. A lot of times we end up falling into these silos approaches. So I love that we have some repetitive themes as well. All right. What about this one? What does it take to scale design teams today? And I want you to think also about not conventional teams, but you all are running teams in different ways. You have very different constructs of what an organization is, what a team is. And I'd love to hear from you, what does it mean to scale a design team today? What does it take? Vincenzo, you want to start this round?
Yeah, and I think I'm going to connect to what has been said so far on design leadership. I run a small team. We more than a team, we have a community of collaborators. So we nurture a tribe of people. As you do at Future Food, you have different projects and you combine competencies and talents according to the outcomes you want to reach and not just the outputs you want to produce. Going back to what has been said so far, I guess the sort of design leadership debate as the sustainable development debate. Why can we just say development without using or sustainability without combining this? That means exactly that we're not there yet and we're still working on it. But talking about design teams, I work with large design agencies as well, and we provide that type of work that they are not able to deliver. which means they're very good on the design management process and producing outputs. So they have 50 employees and they're very good in delivering stuff. And that means designing digital products and creating user experiences. But when there is about managing a client or having the sort of creative confidence or seniority that will enable you to manage the sort of scoping phase, which is tracing the perimeter of a project and understanding where is this project going from a business perspective, from a strategic side, and how can design contribute at its best. That's where it's really, really hard to build a team of people that can do that. And the very few people that can do that, I speak about Italy because I get called a lot to intervene as a inception part of larger projects where we just do that sort of discovery phase, scoping out the project. And then when we go something that looks like business requirement and user stories, we pass it on. I'm not just talking about digital products because we work across different projects where we're not just designing services and experiences. Sometimes we use service design thinking as a way of helping the company to change, like going towards a more servitization business model. So all we've been working on employee experience, which is not about customer, but is more about the internal way of working. So most of the time our work is, of course, about designing services and experiences and digital products. But the other half of the time is actually working on process and other stuff. Very few people can do the facilitation role, the handling the business rationale and managing stakeholders and try to create a sort of sense making you were talking about, Chhavi. And I also have a bit of polemical aspect on, there are a lot of design agencies that say, oh, we say design, but we mean business. Of course, design thinking has enabled designers all over the world to be at the table where decisions are taken and speak up with the CEO and the corporate people. And however, design and business have different agendas. I mean, you can deliver great design, which is not always aligned to the business agenda. I'll go back to university. I teach here at the University of Bologna. I also teach at the Master of Service Design at the Poly Design Consortium in Milan. And they tend to get these guys who are learning about service design to become UX designer, to do a bit of because the industry is asking for that. And that's great because these guys are coming up as students ready for the market, ready for the industry. But there is more. There is more to be in talking about design leadership and creative confidence, to be challenged inside these companies. So we're not just producing future designers that are just answering to what market needs. We need to look a bit beyond that and what society needs and what everybody needs. But we need to build that confidence into these new graduates in order to challenge a bit the companies they're going to work with or for, according to their design career. So, and at least as Buckminster Fuller, who was an architect, a designer, an innovator, a thinker, a philosopher, probably not a design leader, but he was a design leader for me in my career, once said that if you want to be a designer, you either have to choose, either you want to make money or make sense with your design career. I've been struggling throughout all my career to find a sweet spot in between these two areas.
Oh my God. Make money or make sense. That is a tough one.
Either make money or make sense with your design job.
Thank you, Vincenzo. So you're playing the role of this facilitator with large companies, large agencies, and also just helping them transition towards a more design-driven mindset. And that is where the core of your leadership lies, which is, I think, very interesting. Also leading a collective of professionals, it requires a different kind of leadership as well. And yeah, it's very interesting about this scoping and this coming in at the right moment where you really need to have that creative confidence. And so you mean that what it takes to scale design teams, it's not about having 100, an army of designers, but
that's easy.
About having,
that's easy.
Yeah.
People who can produce and deliver stuff or outputs. That's what university and everybody's working towards that.
Yeah.
The youngster
Instead
that can
having-
use old softwares.
Yeah, exactly. With the softwares, we probably also have made them obsolete. But so what it takes is to get those 5 and train them to have that creative confidence, who can have the business rationale and match the design needs with the business needs, and facilitate that conversation. What do you think, Saurabh? Different perspective or similar?
It's one of those questions that I think anybody running a design company thinks about all the time. And there are a couple of parts to this question. Well, I guess first, where do you source designers from? And again, from an Indian context, there are very few design schools. I mean, there are design courses, but they're not really that great. So, a lot of the design graduates, not really, first of all, they're not that many. And the second, they're not job ready. They're not ready to go. They know a bit, but so the first thing we did, and I can speak from my experience at ZEUX, is we decided that, we're not going to find ready-made designers. So we have to build a machine that manufactures designers. So you find these raw diamonds and you polish them and you polish them, and you turn them into design rock stars. And you try to do that in as little time as possible. But then the other problem is, when you do turn them into design rock stars, do they stay with you for a long enough time to pay for that effort, right? To get ROI on that effort. And so the other problem is retention. I've thought a lot about this question. What do designers want in their job? What keeps them engaged? I don't think they want money as the top thing. And Vincenzo said, you make money or you make sense. Well, you can have money, but is that the first thing you want? I think most designers today want meaning. They want to solve meaningful problems. They want to solve the big problems with big ideas. And so the challenge really for us is to, how do you create that optimal level of stress in the company, a positive stress, which a positive kind of tension, which keeps them kind of engaged. Because if you make it too easy, they're bored. If you make it too stressful, they're burnt out. So how do you stay in that Goldilocks zone, right? Where it's just the right amount of tension. Because if you don't do that, you're going to lose people. And I think it's even tougher for, let's say, a big bank, because designers like to stay in a certain kind of environment. And so I've had a lot of banking clients who do hire design teams, but then they have a huge churn. Because after a while, the designer's like, well, I'm getting bored with the kind of problems I'm solving. And they don't know how to treat a designer. This is not a design environment. It's a bank. And, so how do you really craft that environment for creative incubation? How do you keep them at that optimal level of challenge? Those are the questions I think that we need to answer in order to know how to scale design teams. And first, we need a system to churn out more and more designers. I don't think there is one yet. So right now, I'm having to do it myself. Just have a fantastic learning management system, a really thorough internal training program that does a lot of hard work to actually train designers and then retain them.
I've never heard this before, this thing of optimal amount of stress, like positive stress, like you're actually working towards creating a certain sense of urgency, probably, that we need to solve this problem, or it has meaning if you do this.
Yeah.
That is a very interesting.
From that book called Flow. I don't know if you heard of the book Flow, right? The book talks about when do you get into a state of flow, when you're optimally challenged.
I was about to mention that it's impossible to spell the surname of the author, of course, and that's the problem.
But it's a great book. I would highly recommend it. And it's kind of like when you're playing a sport, or let's say tennis, with somebody who's not at all good, then you get really bored. But if somebody who's really, really like a professional, it's hopeless. But when you play with somebody who's just a little bit better than you, you get into a state of flow. That's when you enjoy the game. And I think that's really the kind of tension we're trying to create.
I think this is something that I think even outside of design environments, people can learn from. Like, I don't work at a design, company, but it's very much about impact. And it's true. There are either people who are entirely burnt out, or there are people who are not challenged enough every day. And really finding that sweet spot it's a very interesting take on scaling teams. Thank you for that. What do you think, Laura? What do design teams look like from your angle? Because I know you curate projects with different companies as well.
Yeah. So what I can tell, well, like, this question is very interesting because you can read it from different angles, right? So one angle is how you make your team of designers bring more value, right? How do you scale that? And part of what my colleague was saying right now, bringing this tension. And this tension at times comes with putting your team in environments they are not very used to, like using data driven, working side by side with technologists, with data scientists, something that is very kind of, I'm not sure, this is not my comfort zone. So kind of putting our designers what they do for others and they do it for themselves, so they really feel the pain and the struggle. We need to remind that, because we can get used to everybody. We get very used to our comfort zone, and we want to do the things we like to do. But in order to grow, in order to scale, we need to do things that we are not used to and we don't like to. And business is part of the things that designers, they tend not to like a lot, and also data. And right now, with all these digital experiences, all the challenges, all the channels, we need to really know how to work with data, because otherwise we could not be good designers. And now with machine learning and AI and all the problems with sustainability, data is so important. With the circular economy, where we need to look not only to understand the voice of the customer, we also need to understand the voice of the product and the voice of the supply chain. And we won't be able to do that unless we know data, unless we know how to work with it, with data. Only then we can leverage opportunities and create new service propositions, new products, new business models, if we do that. So one of the things to scale design teams is to expose them to what they are not comfortable with, and do that with some magic, right? Just like my colleague was saying, this tension. I think that is very, very important, because otherwise we will get the same experience that we get when we push a little bit too much the organization outside of the comfort zone. They block us, right? We have had that experience before, that we try to bring the innovation to an organization, and that was so different to them that they were scared. So we need to be very synergic on how do we do this. The other thing that we can think of by scale a design team is that a good designer, a good leader, not designer, good leader, is that one that takes the most out of the team that he or she has. And it doesn't matter the skills those people have. The team you have is the right team. And that means that you will need to be able, and that is not related to the design conversation, is related to the leader conversation. A person that is able to grow their team and bring value to the business, regardless their work background, job experience whatsoever. And that is also very hard to find. And also it's very hard to achieve as a leader.
It's about extracting great design with the team that you have, more than multiplying and replicating and duplicating designers.
That to me is not scale up. That is adding up.
This is very interesting. Because there are different viewpoints, right? Like Vincenzo was suggesting that it's probably about developing that creative confidence to lead even non-design people coming from non-design backgrounds to really lead that transition. while you, Saurabh, were talking about where do we source designers and how do we actually create large design teams. And you, Laura, have been talking about really working with what you have and extracting great design from that. Any thoughts? And do you feel these are different approaches
Well, I mean, I
or
just like to say that,
complementary approaches?
I mean, what Laura said, I really agree with. I think we have to sometimes step back and think, do we really need to mindlessly scale? I think with the new, startup hype, blitz scaling trend, everybody's like talking about scale, let's scale, let's scale. But sometimes you don't necessarily need to do that. I think you need to use your resources wisely. I mean, one of the trends I see in UX is, the unicorn role definition, right? Where one designer kind of handles the entire end-to-end process rather than having a separate visual design team, a separate research team, a separate, and how can you really make your resources more effective, more efficient, rather than just adding heads and numbers, which may not be necessarily the solution you need. So I think I really agree with the fact that you must question, what do you really need in scaling for? What problem are you solving?
Awesome. And that's a great wrap up to this round. Let's look at this one. What do designers, I think we touched upon this a little bit already. What do designers need to excel in leadership roles? We can use this last 15, 20 minutes that we have to do a poll and ask our audience what question they would like to ask. Luna, you're going to launch the poll.
Would you be able to do it? Because I don't really know how to do it. Being humble here.
Let's use this. So we have these 3 questions, and we'd like you to respond with 1, 2, or 3. With which questions would you like our design leaders to answer? And if you have any other questions as well, please post them in chat.
Chhavi, as we wait for the answer, can I share an anecdote? Because it got me to think about leadership a bit. It was about 3 years ago. I was going through a transition. I moved here to Bologna, so a few professional transitions, and been working a lot as a facilitator, as a project lead, as a team leader, as a project manager, so different sort of roles that we've been talking about, as a coordinator, as a whatever. And I was about to study, I was looking for courses and studies, professional courses to sharpen my leadership understanding and see how to turn my natural attitude and the work I've been doing over the past 10, 15 years into something slightly more structured. It's interesting, a mentor, one of the many mentors I found throughout my career path, it's just me a book, actually it was called Leadership. And leadership was about sort of looking at different styles of leaderships and different way. Leadership is not always a good thing. It depends according to what style of leadership. You cannot do copy paste sort of American leadership and copy paste in Italy or in certain region of the world and expect that work exactly in the same way. And of course, there are different kind of leaders. You can be there and very extroverted and having a big ego and working around that and building a community around out of your enthusiasm, or you can be more, as Lara was saying, more of a coach, more of a listening person, more of a silent leader, and getting people supporting you, but you don't need to raise your voice or point out different things. In the end, I ended up studying, I did a course in systemic coaching, and that taught me a lot about myself and about not just how to enable others, but how to listen and understand others better, and then made me a better leader after all, by tuning down my design ego and tuning up my sort of capacity of listening. And yeah, maybe it is about understanding the talents you get around, the attitudes and inclinations, and working out of that. So I was just gonna say that for me, what has been in the first part of my career, leadership was about pushing it out and making things happen And I lived in London for 6 years, and I've been exposed to the sort of startup hype and creative boosts and sprints, and so I'm bringing it out. In the past, I will say 5 to 6 years have been more, not just introverted, but thinking about leadership as a different way, as a way that works not by shouting, but by listening and by enabling people around you to give the best of themselves. So it's about uncovering. Then, of course, may not be scalable in a large, huge company. It works on my scale, where I work in many different environments, educational and even small companies. So it's always contextualized. It's just a reflection about leadership and my journey through it.
Chhavi, may I add something?
Of course.
Thank you. Because I really like what Vincenzo said about what meant to him in his life, in his story, design leadership, what meant and what it means. I actually, if you don't mind, I would like to hear also from our colleague what it means now and what it meant maybe years ago. To me, years ago, not so far away, up to 2018, it was bringing value to the business and gain a seat at the board, which I achieved. And bringing new lenses, making visible that design is for transformation. The business, or the mindsets, and the way we approach our reality that we know so well. That is pretty much what meant in 2008, up to 2019. In 2019, in my peak of my career, the very sweet spot as a designer, I quit. Because design leadership gained a new meaning to me, and is making sure that we have a planet that we can live and not be afraid of. And to me, design makes all the sense to drive all these new tsunami, I hope, of hope, of new business models. And I think, as our colleague was mentioning, circular economy is very, very important. Is a good way for business to transform their perspective, and also is a good approach for designers, because there's a lot of design compositions that we can build up with the circular economy. So right now, design leadership is designed for a better world. So Saurabh, I really wonder what it means and what it meant to you.
So Laura, for me, I think design leadership has always meant seeking out new blue oceans. I mean, I'm kind of using the blue ocean metaphor from the famous book. I think companies that succeed, get ahead and stay ahead, are those that constantly find new blue oceans. And every blue ocean becomes red. And by the time it becomes red, you go on to the next one. I think a design leader's job is to do that, is to find new blue oceans where it's harder and harder to find one. And because everybody has clean code and fast servers, and in an experience economy, that doesn't matter, right? So what's the next differentiator? Where's that going to come from? That's really the job that I know now, design leadership, what that means. Earlier, I had no idea. I was still growing and I didn't have time to think about these deep concepts. So I think I've come to this realization only now.
After like about 15, 20 years of...
Yeah.
That was a great question. Thank you, Laura, for extending that to the rest of the group. What it meant before to you and what it means now. Okay, so the question from the audience, the question that wins is AI the next big thing for design? Feel free to start. Whoever wants to jump in.
Can I start, Chhavi?
Go ahead.
Oh, are we following the same sequence? Go ahead, Vincenzo, sorry.
No. I like to challenge the sequence and go random, popcorn style.
All right, okay, great. I guess I've always believed that we shouldn't necessarily just be chasing the next big technology trend. I mean, I think all of us designers on this call will agree, I hope agree to that it's when I get a client and who says, hey, can you make my app for a watch? And I ask, well, why will somebody do this on their watch? They'll be like, well, because, just because the watch is cool. So, it's kind of like blockchain is a question or an answer waiting for a question kind of thing. So I just want to qualify that question, that I don't want, design to necessarily just chase the next technology trend. Is AI going to have a massive influence on design? Yes, of course, it's already having it. When you think of big data and hyper-personalization, of course, it's already doing that. How does Netflix create personalized viewing libraries for you? It's already using AI. Google is already doing that when it publishes your search results. So it's not something that's going to happen, it's already happening. Right now, I think AI is not that intelligent. If you've experienced some of the chatbots that I have, you won't think it's very smart. Try ordering a pizza on AI sometimes, on chatbot. You'll know what I mean. There are two fundamental challenges that I've thought of as a designer with AI. One, the sense of control. When you're sitting in a self-driving car, I think what the user wants to know is, do I have any control over this, or am I just kind of in a ride that I'm just part of the code? I don't have any control. So how do you give control in a self-driven environment? And two, the question of ethics, the trolley problem, right? When a car is deciding who to save, a child or an old person, how do they decide? Those are questions that fascinate me, and I think design has to answer those questions.
I do agree. I don't know if Lara want to go and jump on it. Okay, I believe that artificial intelligence is going to be surely impacting the design world, as we already say, is doing it. Mostly because everybody's trying to chase up and not miss out on the big technological trend. However, I think the real value in terms of impact and outcomes they can produce is when going to make people smarter. It's not just how it's going to make our life more effective and efficient or saving us time. Of course, all those things are important, but I think that's such a big thing from a technological perspective. It should be making people smarter or us more equal or able to see differences. And only in that way, I will really appreciate the difference of this big technological trend. Otherwise, it's just going to be, as we say at the beginning, most of our clients come to us and they ask us for output driven projects, which mean, can you make me a chatbot? Can you make me this? And you're like, why do you need that? Talking about challengers, there's a joke about design thinkers, which is how many design thinkers you need to change a light bulb? And the answer is, do you need a light bulb? Or do you need a larger window, or you need to move out? Or, that's the point. It's about, do we need artificial intelligence? Can we challenge that? What are you trying to get out of it? Maybe there are many other ways to do it. Maybe there are cheaper ways of doing it. Maybe IA is the answer for certain things. Still a big road in terms of research and development, in my opinion, as Saurabh was saying, because we're all using artificial intelligence, whether we are aware or not, but we are all using every day. It's just not that sophisticated as some futurist thinking will get us to think. We will get there, but again, only at the time when artificial intelligence will make us smarter as people, or make us more human. For me, it's just another tech trend.
Well, I think with AI, which by the way is a discipline that has decades now, is another tool, another method. And again, in the history of design, we see design being included in the AI conversation as the aesthetic component to make it less spooky, less intrusive. But it doesn't have an influence on the way AI works, as my colleague Saurabh was mentioning, that design should play a leading role, again, leadership in AI. So it is so, it's kind of heartbroken to see that a design, again, it is ill understood, and it is used only for the cosmetics component of it. And the concern, it's heartbreaking, and also it's concerning because disciplines as AI, that has, like I said, decades of research, but it's getting to a point that will go through a huge leap and will move so rapidly and progress so rapidly that when the time is come, design will not be there, because we lose so much time in the cosmetic component of it. So as my colleagues were saying, AI is there more than we think, and with several issues and not so well performed experiences, but rapidly will progress. And it's important to have these conversations on how do we work with this technology in a way that brings something else in a positive way, of course, to everybody.
But again, Laura, it's design leadership. Oh, Chhavi, maybe it's a question too. Is design in the position to influence the development of AI? Because this is happening and businesses calling it out. So it's happening. We're saying, what was the position of design world of designers in influencing the future development of artificial intelligence? Because that's what I will say, design leadership, bending the curve or making more human or finding the way of developing towards some way, or maybe not. Maybe, as we say, it's not mature enough. And once again,
it is mature. It is getting very mature. It will go through a huge leap, and you will see. But it's important that we, as a designers, again, walk away from our job position and consider the word design as a mindset, as a way to structure things, whichever the thing is in the conversation, including AI. Don't be afraid of. Understand what is going on in the world, because it's the only way that design will gain a position, the position that it needs.
I had a company call me in to deliver a design thinking workshop connected to artificial intelligence. It was a weapon company. I said no. I think it's also that part of our job, and be free to say no and remain independent of where we want to make things happening or not. It was a gun company, yes.
That's great. So we are at the end of this conversation. Very, very insightful conversation. I just want to wrap up some key points that emerged. Laura brought it back. Design is a mindset. It's really, Vincenzo said, it's about enabling other people, enabling and blending different languages, training for the design mindset. Saurabh said it's about understanding who the touch points are within other companies that I collaborate with. We would like to see more CDOs, and that's when we would really be able to see the design leadership maturity out there in the world. We believe that design leadership today, when we think about AI, when we think about blockchain, when we think about transformative technologies or sustainability or impact, design leadership should have the strongest voice. Laura said it's about bringing clarity in businesses in this whole wishy-washy world of where we're living. Vincenzo thinks it's really about also developing a creative confidence, understanding and making the choice between sense and money sometimes, aligning business goals, and about when we talk about scaling business design teams, it's really about creating that sweet spot between creative incubation, positive stress is what Saurabh suggested. And how do you extract great design from teams instead of trying to just scale, duplicate designers, working with what you have and the different disciplines that you have at hand is what Laura said. And finally, maybe tuning down our design ego and looking at silent leadership and trying to understand what systemic coaching could look like in the role of design leadership as a coach, as a mentor. I still have a question mark on that one, but I really want to explode this more with you guys. So I hope we continue this conversation. Thank you so much for your time. The audience, please follow them. You have all their LinkedIn IDs on chat. Thank you so much for joining this conversation, engaging with it. I want to share quickly the last aspect. So Luna, take it away from here.
Will do. Well, since it's Saturday and everybody's here, we just want to make sure that from joining us, and if you are interested in taking the program, you can take the opportunity of this 20% off discount. So you can just scan the QR code, or you can send me an email, and my email is right there. I'm the advisor for the program, and I would love to not only talk about the program itself, but going through a brainstorm session and talk about design leadership. Basically, that's how my conversation with some people have been, and it's insightful. And I believe, Chhavi, if you go forward, we also have a QR code for people to download the ebook with some interviews that we have from those regional leaders and some of the global leaders who will be participating on the program. The ebook was made with so much care and attention, and it's super, super insightful. So feel free to download the ebook as well. And if anyone has more questions, I'll be here for a little bit so you can talk to me straight on, or you're all welcome to send me an email, add me on LinkedIn. I also share my schedule, so you're welcome to just schedule a call with me. Thank you so much, Vincenzo, Laura, Saurabh. And am I saying that right, Saurabh?
Yeah, perfect.
Good. And Chhavi, I was so good. I mean, it's Saturday and just starting the weekend already with those insights it's a great way for us to wrap up the week and see that there is a possibility for us designers to shape and design the future that we want in a more sustainable way, because I believe that's what design is in essence, right? It's taking consideration of every aspect of our surroundings, and more we implement that in the design leadership or into the leadership itself, better the world will be, in my perspective. Maybe I'm being romantic, but as far as I've listened to you guys, I don't think I'm alone. So that's great.
We're all hopeless romantics. It's okay.
I guess.
Yes.
Well, hopeful romantics, I guess. We're hopeful.
Hopeful, yeah.
Thank you everyone from joining. I know it's Saturday. It was great to have you interacting on the chat. Please feel free to add us on LinkedIn. Let's just keep this conversation going. That's the power of connection.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you so
Have a
much.
good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Chhavi, give me a call when you're back in town.
Yes. Bye.
Ciao.
Yeah.
Good. Hi, Thais,
Cool.
Murtaza. Thaís, tem alguma pergunta? I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
I have to rush, but this was
Yes,
really great.
I'll
Thank you.
wrap it up. Thank you so
Okay.
much, Chhavi. It was
Did
so
you
good.
have?
Say that again.
Sorry.
You can go ahead. What were you asking?
What were you saying? I was
I'm
just asking if you have access to the chat and.
Yes, I copied
There's a-
everything. I have it all here, and I've saw that you took down some notes. So if you want to, whenever you have time, share those with me. Will be super helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Definitely.
Enjoy your
Do that.
Saturday.
Maybe
However
tomorrow
you
morning.
can.
Because right.
Mhm.
Yes. Thank you.
Talk
Bye.
soon. Bye.